This episode is called Return of the Psychotic Prince. So, the guy running things behind the scene, I think his name is Makishima, but the guy with the whiter hair, it's interesting. So, he was helping this guy who was taking over the avatars because he was just curious about his psychology. But then when it became clear that he was going to get caught, he like basically tormented the guy. So once again, we come back to the fact that I don't know how such people hide in this society. There's got to be a way to remain unnoticed, basically. For only episode 6, I have a lot of information already, though.
I can't find how to force us.
So his partner got killed on that case, and that's what made him snap and demoted him. I like this character, the police chief. Being a criminal is not genetic, is what she's saying.
Don't make the same mistake as your father. I hope it with every beat of my heart.
So his dad was a criminal. It's good that they don't judge children yet based on their parents' crimes.
She never told her love, but let concealment like a worm in the bud. Shakespeare's comedies are boring. You don't like his work?
This is always the interesting fact about watching a show that takes place in the future, is that so because we don't have any history in between, any cultural history in between our time and that time, in the future they always seem to be studying the same classics that we are, even though, especially in now this future isn't that far off, but like let's say Star Trek, and they talk about Shakespeare in like Star Trek or Doctor Who or anything like that has highly advanced sci-fi, it's always a little funny to me. Or like Arthur Conan Doyle, like Sherlock Holmes stuff. It always makes me think, yeah, we do study the Greek and Latin classics, which are thousands of years old at this point, but it makes you wonder, 1,000 years from now, will they be studying Shakespeare still or no? Will they be studying, Yeats or Keating or, Plath? Who will be the classics of the future? I'd like for some sprinkling of that in future series, like, oh, and this author is from 2068, is a classic, and you're like, oh, of course, because classics are generated in all time periods. It just depends on, perspective. Like the Iliad is a classic, but so is Sherlock Holmes, and so is Romeo and Juliet, and so is modern classics like Lord of the Rings. Yeah, it's just kind of crazy to think.
I do like his tragedies, especially Macbeth.
As time goes on, there will be more works of literature that stand the test of time. She's got an admirer.
Okay, but why don't you just look it up in the database? I've ventured into a world so depraved that a wholesome girl like you wouldn't even be able to imagine it.
Are you sure? You never know.
For instance, this.
You mean juice?
Stick to safe therapeutic tripping or go virtual,
Huh. Well, okay. They have therapeutic drug trips, like basically state-sanctioned, like safe ways to get high. That's very interesting because that is the future of drugs right there, is drugs that basically are designer, that aren't harmful, that aren't addictive, but you can still experience the crazy mental effects. It's interesting that alcohol is like a little obsolete in this future.
For drinking, not for breathing fire.
She didn't know what wine was. She thought it was juice. Oh, she's lit.
The thing is, by the time I came...
How was he killed?
Well, he was chasing down
It looked pretty nasty.
The tables turned and he became a victim.
That sounds awful.
Now tell me, how is it you're okay after drinking so much?
Bam.
Well, maybe you just get drunk way too easily.
Enforcer Sasayama. Oh, there's no way I could forget the specimen case, even if I tried.
Ooh.
Specimen case?
Yeah, that was how we all referred to the investigate post-news blackout.
Sorry, we shouldn't discuss this while you're eating.
That is gruesome. She's like, whatever.
Why not? It takes a lot to ruin Yayoi's appetite. Believe me, that girl is into some stuff way more sick and twisted than this.
Ooh.
That's... You were talking about the specimen case, right? Continue.
Which remains a mystery.
You're saying he had
Was he a pawn
an
too?
accomplice?
I don't think we can call this at this point. Only God knows for sure.
Only God knows for sure.
Keeping all those secrets.
Yeah, exactly.
Her friends want that hot tea.
So does this have something to do with that loose cannon you were thought? Yeah? But could it be the problem is that you two are too much alike?
She picked up her coat. So is the coat real? I'm a little iffy on the holo projection stuff.
She just vanished. I heard...
School queen here.
I can't figure it out. Why the hell is Rikako so popular?
She's pretty and she's intelligent. Do you really need me to go on?
Yeah, well...
She's a lady killer.
That girl scares me. Why is that...
Good afternoon.
Sorry to interrupt your lunch, girls.
What brings
Reminds
you?
me of
Well,
Satsuki
Moriary
Kiryu
belongs to
from
an
Kill la
extracurricular
Kill.
clubs, am I right? These days, having a school that offers
I'm very suspect now. Well,
Excuse me.
interesting painting. Aw, this poor schoolgirl's gonna get dismembered.
Thanks for coming.
She just wants to connect with her cute senpai. It's not gonna work out that way.
I know. Been watching you for a while now, you know?
Oreo?
Tell me what happened, in your own words.
That man, he's always...
But there's no way you can talk to your mother about it.
My real father left me. At my regular checkup last week, they said my psychopaths had gotten all cloudy.
The person that you long to be, your true worth in this world. Don't you want to at least try to discover that?
Is she recruiting her? Is she her target, or is the stepdad the target?
Inside you, just below the surface. At the hand of her own father.
Ooh. Ooh. That's some creepiness there.
There are millions of things
Gives me Doki Doki
humans are capable of, but animals are not.
literature
One of
club
those things
vibes.
is safety control. Where did you obtain it?
So that goes deeper. He doesn't think this guy was acting alone either. Is he connected to the same mastermind?
In the Hachioji drone incident, and then Mito's. Hell, I'm so sure of that. I bet the bra I'm wearing on it.
She's wearing a bra.
Mito may have been overly obsessed with social networks, but he didn't possess the skills necessary.
Would be more than enough of a reason for him.
Kogami?
Intent and means. Engineering a crime by bringing together those two otherwise disparate elements. That's how he plays his game.
He knows. It's the same mastermind from the specimen case.
The desire to kill but don't know how. Turning these wannabes.
It's an interesting criminal mastermind. The Moriary of this
Stop and
series.
think this through. Back then they used a...
The hell? Whoa, that's creepy. Is that a doll?
It's the
Looks
schoolgirl.
like some kind of art project or something. Maybe. Whatever it is, it's in poor taste. It's gross. Who did this? You know, when you get up close, it looks pretty damn real.
It is real.
Such detail.
Poor dismembered schoolgirl.
Still, I don't think I'd want that on display.
Because the girl should not survive her shame, and by her presence...
Huh.
Still renew his sorrows. Is that right, Mr. Makishima?
Even beautiful flowers eventually wither and fall.
he's meeting her in person.
One way or another.
This should be
Knowing
rare
that
for a
sad
criminal
fact,
like
it's
him.
only natural to want to stop time, preserving the
Works of art that I wish to complete in the days that lie ahead. I'm just getting started.
Whew. So here's how this is going to go. No one's going to suspect her at first, but if they do get on her trail, that's a big problem because she's met him in person. I don't know what the connection between the two of them is, but like that should be very rare for an arch criminal like him to actually meet one of his agents in person. Now, whether he has a use for her or he just wants to see what she'll do if given the tools to make her art, I don't know, but that was an excellent episode. I kind of feel for the schoolgirl who just basically fell in love with her, and she fell in love with a murderous psychopath.